'Twas the week before Christmas. 'Twas the week before Christmas, and in number 2, the mood in the garage was both sombre and blue. The rumour around here has struck us with fear. It looks like there'll be no Santa this year. There is a story around, and from what we've been told, he was feeling real tired and getting quite old, so he traded his sack for a job with less stress. Somebody had said that he settled out west. We were all standing round in our usual way, discussing what's happened since last Christmas Day. Our new boss is busy, cutting back on the crew, and decided to figure out just what else he will do. I went to the tool crib to get me a tool, and old brother Steve was calling someone a fool. He was talking to Sandy about Visey's Bay stock. I'm sure he said from now on it's be all in my sock. Since this time last year old Rise moved away. He's gone looking for a bog down in Tampa Bay. And Coster got lonesome and wanted to roam, so he grabbed all his tools and headed back home. While the magaboat kid was out stuck in the snow, he was talking to Dominic on his old radio. What he was saying, I only heard part, but I heard him say something about Charlie and Bart. Jerry the fireman looked up at the sky, mumbled something about night shift and started to cry. He slumped in his corner as he pulled on his hair, and he said with a smile, I'll be gone by next year. Old Ben's in the tool crib with his 34 years. Don't know where he came from or why he is here. Said he moved to the tool crib to get him a rest. I said he didn't want to lose any more chess. In the garage there's a new gang just roaming around. They all carry clipboards and they don't make a sound. Bill is the hero as he moves in and out, but as for their mission, there still is some doubt. Wilfie said painting is one thing I dread, while pictures of overtime floated round in his head. He was down on his knees painting lines on the floor. Kept trying to tell us that's why his knees were so sore. There's a new guy called Doug who came here last year. He runs all around with his head in the air. While calling his crew for to get on the ball, he looks for old tires for his rubberized wall. We were just reminiscing about Christmases past, when to our amazement we heard a loud blast. Of hot air it was, as the door opened wide, and there was old Santa with Bill by his side. Though he looked like old Santa with his red suit and all, there was no big belly and he was not so tall as the regular Santa that we've seen in the past, sort of like a beginner who's made it at last. Didn't say much as he ran across the floor, got as far as the lunchroom, then stopped by the door. His big heavy sack he had hung on his back, he looked like somebody who needed a snack. His coat was all ruffled, his face like a berry. At first glance he looked like he was quite contrary. His eyes were a sparkle, his face was aglow. He stuck his finger up his nose and gave a big blow. He pointed outside where he left his old sleigh and sang out to Gary to bring it into the bay. He smelled like a reindeer, and he looked like one too. He stood scratching his head as he sized up the crew. He looked at the place like a jolly old elf. At first glance he looked like our old painter Wilf. By the dirt on his beard and the soot in his hair, he must have been stuck in a chimney somewhere. He was wearing old mucklocks that came up to his knees, all covered with myrrh from the green Christmas trees. A piece of his coat was ripped off from behind, must have been flying too low when he passed over the mine. As he lay down his pack, he went down on one knee, called out to Jerry and said, here's an he for the tree. With a sly, silly grin, he called out to the crew and said, come and see what I have for you. For Steve there's a bundle of old worthless stock, for Ben an old toolbox that comes with no lock. For Eli and Donald there's a package somewhere, but because of the budget it may be next year. For Howard and Chester there is a new chair, and for Ivan a dryer to blow dry his hair. Some chicken for Harry and for Peria too, for Two Chins a smoke hog that's almost brand new. For he'd leave his day shift for another whole year. There's night shift for James, and Carl had no fare. Some hot pants for Reggie to wear on his cat, and a garment to tell him just where he is at. For Rick there's a ticket to the Liberals' big ball, and enough of tobacco to chew all next fall. For Charlie and Ted there's an old book or two, and for Hobby some tools for the blackmail crew. For Habe there's something that's not in my pack. It's an office upstairs with the rest of the pack. There's also a truck with a reclining chair, and a cellular phone so he can call Pierre. By this time old Santa was all wet with sweat. He was puffing and panting and hauled with a breath. Then he sat on his bag as he slumped by the door, then looked up and said, "That's it, there's no more." He stayed a few minutes and climbed to his feet, sang out to old Cyril and called him "my sweet." He patted his belly and pulled on his hair, and like an old tomcat, he went up the stair. I couldn't help watching him as he climbed to the top. The way that he staggered looked like he had had a drop. He reached for the doorknob, then fell on his rear. Then it finally struck me. It looked like our pair.